not to be a statistician, but I think in the US we had like 12,000 accidents last year that were attributed to tires. So that's kind of a scary stat, totally preventable.
Hello and welcome everyone to a brand new episode of the Auto Tech Show. Of course, our podcast that talks about everything automotive innovation and technology. My name is Mark Babin, your host, and it's great to have you with me for what's set to be a very special episode. Now, on this podcast, I think it's one that you're going to find some serious value in, potentially even some life-saving tips and tricks that we're going to offer when it comes to your knowledge about your tire awareness. And we're going to look at how you can become more actively involved in your tire maintenance, increasing that awareness for key factors that are going to keep you driving safe on the road. So it's a big episode. And to help me tackle this massive topic, I'm very excited to introduce the founder at Treads, Zach Olson. Now, Zach and his team at Treads work to make car ownership more enjoyable by eliminating the hassle of car maintenance while making the roads safer for everyone. Of course, you can explore more about what Treads has to offer by downloading their consumer-facing application, which you can find just down below in the description of this podcast. Zach, thank you so much for your time today. I'm really looking forward to your insights on the topic as a whole. But yeah, it's fantastic to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, definitely excited to be here and talk tires with everybody.
Yeah, it's a big topic, and I think one that doesn't get talked about a lot given the importance that tires have. They connect us to the road, and I think we get lost in the car sometimes rather than the tires itself. So it's an interesting talk, and I know we're going to dive into a lot of stuff. I'd love to start by jumping into the primary value for drivers when we look at being more tire aware. So why is it important to be so aware of tires? We know that there's a really big gap in the average driver's tire awareness. As I just mentioned, it's something that's often forgotten about. Perhaps proper maintenance and proper wear checks aren't done. And we'll get into ways that drivers can become more tire aware and the steps they can take a little bit later on. But first, let's address why people should be more aware of their tires and the condition they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Your tires are your foundation, like quite literally on the road. And as a consumer, transportation is at our core of our social and economic well-being. So if we really break it down, though, there's like three aspects here. We have safety, we have cost, and we have environment, which, I think are at the core of the issue of tire awareness. So, a bad set of tires is going to exponentially increase your likelihood of an accident. Yep. I think not to be a statistician, but I think in the US we had like 12,000 accidents last year that were attributed to tires. So that's kind of a scary stat, totally preventable. Underinflated tires, misaligned, out of balance, all of these things are going to, increase your road resistance, really the natural wear and tear on your engine is going to increase. It's just overall making your car work harder than what it should naturally, which at first glance, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but over a sustained period of time, and we're talking about an increase in fuel costs, premature engine wear, and ultimately, it could kind of domino effect into like other mechanical issues with your car. So, and then when we think about the environment from this perspective, good tires typically, are going to, cause less fuel consumption, fewer tire replacements, and just generally we're creating a smaller footprint on the environment from that.
Yeah, I think those are great points. And you're right. I think it just asks a lot more of a situation that it's preventable. Like you said, I think it's something that we don't need to have that stat on accidents. That's terrible. And we can avoid having that. We can reduce that by simply increasing the awareness. We did a study earlier this year talking about stats, and we wanted to find out American drivers get some tangible data on just how much they know about their tires. So we did a study in January, and there's a stat that popped up. We had a lot of really great stats in the report and some really startling facts that we found out. I'd love to get your initial reaction on one of them, just to kind of get your commentary. We found that 50% of drivers are not checking their tires on a regular basis. They're not checking the tire tread on a regular basis. And that leads them to perhaps unknowingly driving on bald tires, illegally worn tires that are much more likely to have an accident. So that 57%, it's a pretty startling fact when we found it. I'd love your initial reactions to hearing that.
Yeah, it's, most consumers are not mechanics, right? So it's easy to overlook most car maintenance, especially tires, because they have like this magical ability to camouflage themselves with the car. But I think a new emerging challenge is, what we're seeing with like car ownership trends, where, I think on the average right now in the US market is 13 years is how long consumers are owning their vehicles. So for obviously a ton of different reasons, they're opting not to go out and buy new cars. Now, the domino here, right, is when you own a car for longer, they're on the road for longer, inevitably, that's just going to require more repairs over time. And then if you think about over 13 years, how many tires that you're going to need to buy for that vehicle. I mean, that's completely changing, the maintenance landscape for consumers and everybody in the auto space. And I think a big factor, though, is both of those dynamics, repairs, replacements, they're often unexpected and super expensive. But the silver lining, I think, that we can, try and draw from this is really driven from like the convenience economy, where consumer expectations are rapidly evolving. And really what that means, I think, is consumers want more innovative solutions to really manage their vehicles over those 13 years that they're owning them. And really, it's as similar to, being able to catch a ride with Uber, order lunch through DoorDash, manage all of these things right from an app on your phone.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that bridges really well into the next topic I wanted to bring up, which is, of course, that technology aspect, because we can't ignore that how we manage our maintenance and how we manage tires, and specifically with the evolution of technology, it's only going to enable us to do that easier, more accurate, with more transparency, more traceability for the owner, for the service departments, for everyone involved, for the whole solution circle. So I think what you guys offer at Treads is a fantastic example of this, bringing all of these data points into one and bringing it to the consumer. So I think you guys have really done an excellent job at leading that charge per se. But from your role, how do you see technology playing a role? Is it bringing everything together as you guys have done? Do you see it playing a larger role that you're maybe working towards if we look to the future? So how do you see technology in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, technology is one of the most exciting topics, I think, in especially the auto space right now. And there's no question it's going to have such a transformational impact on the tire industry as a whole. And it's really by making tire replacement and maintenance, it's just more accessible, more affordable. It's more convenient. And, as I mentioned earlier, with consumer expectations really changing, I think about a quote from, Peter Drucker's book, Innovation and Entrepreneurship, It's pretty harsh, but it's very true. It's innovate or die,
Mhm.
is really what it boils down to. And if companies are not reacting to what consumers are expecting and demanding in today's day and age, consumers are really, I think, what are driving innovation today, and at least in the consumer space for automotive and tires. But as an example, maybe to share a little bit of how we're leveraging technology at
Yeah,
Treads.
please.
What we do today is we have, we leverage advanced, visual machine learning and AI to really help analyze tire conditions in real time, from user uploaded photos to the app. So, basically what we're able to do is it empowers us to give customers real-time feedback of, if their tire's repairable, if it needs to be replaced, right from their smartphone using the Treads app. So, we've essentially, taken a ubiquitous smartphone and, transform this into like more of a sophisticated diagnostic tool and put it into the hand of consumers, which historically, like, all of this technology has been reserved for commercial applications.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Do you find they're quite accepting? Like, do you find that the customer, you spoke to customer demands and how rapidly that's evolving. Is that demand that's generating on its own because they want this level of tool, or is there an incentive level that's driving them in? What is making that demand change, and how are they adapting to it?
That's a really good question. I think there's like a culmination of a few things happening here where we're kind of riding, the tailwinds of just general consumer behavior changes, like how they consume every aspect of their life, from entertainment to consumer goods to, travel, all the above. I think every industry has kind of hit this, like their business models have just evolved pretty rapidly over the last like 5 years.
Yeah.
So this is just basically taking those same trends, and it's just starting to hit the automotive tire space at the moment. So timing is I think part of this.
Yeah, typically we see automotive lagging behind a little bit when it comes to an advancement like this. Obviously, there's a lot of work, and I think people misunderestimate the amount of work and effort it takes to build something and get it to market. A lot of the innovation we see today, especially in automotive, is stuff that's been developed over the last decade. Is that something you continue to find to be true, or is that life cycle shortening? How do you see it?
I definitely think there's a bit of Moore's law, right? That is happening. And yeah, I mean, I think typically like the auto space maybe lags a little bit, but I think that's just maybe more of not knowing it intuitively how to apply like this cutting edge technology to solve these real world problems. But yeah, I think we're just on this convergence of technology and application. So
yeah, a lot happening in a lot of different directions, and everyone's trying to find their niche or what demands really hold, and then different markets, different geographic changes. It's really complicated, and I agree. I think we're still in the discovery phase. But again, I commend what your team's done to bring a lot of things together. And I think that's just going to provide a lot of answers, and that tool that maybe they didn't know they needed or they wanted, who knows, right? There's different level of consumers out there. Now, speaking of cutting edge technology, is there a particular technology or technological advancement that you're aware of that you're excited about, or something that you're looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, beyond excited about the collaboration between Anyline and Treads on this particular topic. And, getting very specific is talking about the Tread depth scanner. This technology is now available in the Treads app. So again, going back to democratizing this technology making it available for consumers really for the first time,
Really, yeah.
where historically this has been like commercial application, right? Um, so kind of peeling back the layers of what that looks like, really we're giving consumers that ability of like a point and shoot um, application of checking the health of their tires on demand. At any point in time, they open up the Treads app, they can scan their tread depth, understand where they're at. And where we go from here, though, this is just the beginning, because layering our collaboration together with what we're already working on, with the amount of data that we're able to aggregate and make intuitive applications with, basically we can now start to predict when a customer needs a new set of tires before they even know that they need them.
Perfectly
So it
said.
becomes a predictable, experience for consumers, where no longer is this, an unenjoyable, unexpected experience and cost, to help maintain their car. So, beyond excited about where we're going with the collaboration and the technology.
Yeah, it's a fantastic partnership, and I'm really looking forward to how it develops over the next years as the technology continues to develop, as we learn how the customers are interacting with it. But you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned predictive maintenance. I think being able to alert a customer that, hey, maybe in 5 to 6 months, maybe look at replacing your tire. We're taking the guess game out of it. And I think that's a fantastic point that you bring up, and something that perhaps this solution lends it to, but your whole service of opportunities that you have within the app, again, of not only alerting them to a problem, but giving them a solution, right? Not just telling them that, hey, this is an issue, but you have the ability to point them in the right direction, perhaps with some further incentive as well. So you're incentivizing that education experience, if that makes sense. I think that's a huge move.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just fun to see where you can take technology and again apply it to real world challenges, and it's all about just making improvements to our everyday life, and I think that that's what we're really aiming for in accomplishing at Treads.
Yeah, simplifying and educating, and you're right, just giving everyone a one-stop shop essentially, so they don't have to have different things for everyone, or go to this shop for that or this shop for that. And we know those all cost money and effort and take time that perhaps we don't have as much as we would have used to with how busy everyone is. So as I alluded to earlier in the show, and I know this is something that many of our listeners will be anxiously waiting for, I know I got my pen and paper out, as of course those first steps when we look at becoming more tire wear. So those first steps that we want to take if we want to go, hey, you know what? I understand the importance. I understand why this is such an important thing. I want to get more involved with my tire wear. So from your unique perspective, and obviously with the team you have behind you, what are those beginning steps that you would recommend the average person take when they want to be more proactive with their tire wear?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think, it just boils down to embracing technology, really that in combination with on-demand services. And again, it's no different than how we're already really living our lives. It's just applying it in another area of our life, and the, understanding that the convenience economy does exist in the auto and tire space. And that's really what we're, doing at Treads. For instance, in our app, we offer subscriptions for tires, alignments, oil changes, wiper blades. So it's kind of this whole car care, management platform, and everything's right there in the palm of your hand, through your smartphone. But, with the convenience of modern technology, I think the other dynamic here, because there's a big service element, is you don't have to sit in a waiting room like all day. I know that used to kind of be the biggest complaint for consumers, is how time consuming, car maintenance and tire awareness can be, but it doesn't have to be that way through technology. And, at Treads, we've really optimized our platform, not only from the subscription element, making it more affordable, but making it more efficient with your time in actually scheduling out these services. So through our platform, we have a network of mobile service partners
Mm-hmm.
who actually come out to you, your home, your work, wherever you're at. But sometimes that's not, as efficient as going to, say, a service center.
Mm-hmm.
So through, the Treads app experience, we also help you optimize, scheduling out those services at the right location, whether it's brick and mortar or it's actually somebody coming out to you. So, I think that those are all the dynamics is just leverage technology so you can work smarter, not harder as a consumer.
Yeah, something that I guess you kind of touched on there and as well, and I kind of just summarized in my notes here, but it's have higher expectations. Do you think that's a fair thing for consumers to look at and go, I should have higher expectations when it comes to the tools available to me to do this. I don't have to do it on my own.
Absolutely. No, I think you're totally spot on. It's, we should have higher expectations, I think, from a user experience
Mm-hmm.
standpoint. And I think that that's the big paradigm shift that we've gone through as consumers is how do I want to spend my time? How do I want to experience certain things? And it's not just like, the creature comforts of life, but it's the everyday, kind of responsibilities of, being a grown up and maintaining, our cars.
Yeah, this adult world
Yeah, exactly.
that we're all somehow just falling into unknowingly, right? House, car, kids, it's stuff.
Yeah, totally. So let's use technology to make life as a whole more enjoyable.
Yeah, I think if people take the time to look around at options, and again, what you guys offered, that kind of option, I think there are endless options for technology when we look at ways to manage this more effectively. And something you touched on at the end there again with perhaps like with the tire servicing example of either going to a service place or having it delivered. Can you speak just to creating options for people rather than giving them a one all be all type of solution, whereas somewhere making it easier for them and taking those first steps by giving them options, we're allowing them to take the step they want?
Yeah, I mean that's what's so cool about the opportunity we have of optimizing our lives and our time is depending on certain circumstances. I mean, right off the cuff, you think, maybe a mobile solution coming to you makes the most sense. But maybe in a given circumstance, if it's a quick tire repair or a quick swap out or a rotation, depending on where you're at geographically, through the Treads app, we're able to help you, identify what's the quickest location, whether it be mobile or brick and mortar.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make that decision as a consumer of what makes the most sense for where you're at right here, right now. So that's a really cool, I think, user experience that, right now is just not being delivered anywhere else.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the next step. Like we're on that verge of getting there, but we're still taking that step. We're not on it yet. And I think, yeah, solutions like what you offer and everywhere else in the world, this is going to be that step to create options, give all the information for that. Like you said, what service are you going for? Here's what we recommend the best option for, but you still have this other way. So giving people the choice, because we don't know what's going on in everyone's lives. And it would be silly to assume we do and to give them only one option. So I really like that point.
It's kind of like, using a mapping system on your phone, right?
Yeah, great
Like they
point.
always give you like suggested quickest route. Same concept, but here's the suggested quickest route to solve your issue that you're having with your tires right now.
That's a great comparison. And I like that nod to getting ideas from other industries and other pieces of technology to inspire what we want to do, because clearly if they've implemented something and the framework makes sense, then clearly it's working for the consumer audience, the same people that are interacting with those apps that are maybe interacting with their vehicles. And if all we want to do is make it easier for them to engage with their vehicle, make it safer for them on the roads, helping them to map out those different options can maybe give them that easy choice, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Something else you alluded to that I'd love to take just a quick second on is you mentioned the subscription side. And I'm just curious, it's a little bit off topic, but I'm a little curious your perspective on the subscription side of automotive. We see a lot of things shifting in that way when it comes to OEM stuff, some car features subscription. But when we look at the servicing side in particular, do you feel like the subscription angle is the way we're headed? We obviously have, Amazon started doing subscriptions years ago. So again, nodding to another industry there that take advantage of something. Do you see automotive consumers going down the subscription route when it comes to tires, servicing, other automotive needs?
It's all an iterative process, I think, in any industry. And when you think about the subscription business model being applied to automotive, we've seen it in adjacent areas like auto insurance, pay for what you use. We've seen it again in everything else, subscribing to toothbrushes, to dog food and everything else. So automotive, I think, is even more powerful than most industries when it comes to the subscription business model. And I think there's compounding factors here. It's, again, going back to what we talked about earlier, consumers are owning their vehicles for a longer period of time. There's certain economic pressures that consumers experience, and having, $1,000 to $2,000, to go buy unexpectedly in most circumstances a brand new set of tires, consumers are just not prepared for that. Yeah. And especially if the credit environment is tightening up, again, all these variables, I think, really lend themselves to opening up this business model in the auto space. Smooth out those expenses for consumers, make it predictable. And I think the other interesting dynamic is, this is just an iteration. The subscription business model is really an iteration off of the buy now, pay later business model. Right. But it I think checks a few more boxes for consumers where, consumers want more transparency. They want this without additional fees or interest, like traditional financing products. So, it's, I think we're just barely scratching the surface on, unleashing a whole new potential in the auto industry. And I feel very excited and grateful that Treads can kind of be the, pioneer in bringing a subscription business model to the tire industry and the auto maintenance industry in the US. So very excited about it.
And linking it all to the service side and that predictive maintenance side as well. I think that's really nice. And linking it back to our conversation, of course, taking that guesswork out of it, making that tire awareness more intuitive and more of a smooth, organic process. So I think that's a fantastic point to end on. Zach, thank you so much for this conversation. I could talk to you for hours about this. It's super enjoyable chatting with you. Any final notes before we wrap things up?
No, I just, greatly appreciate the time. It was a very enjoyable conversation, and I'm sure we'll continue talking offline.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, I think, a long and prosperous relationship building here with Treads and Anyline. So we're happy to have you, and great to talk to you on the podcast. So again, thank you so much for joining me. And appreciate the insights.
Thanks, Mark.
And for everyone watching and listening on your own, thank you so much for joining this episode of the Auto Tech Show. Hopefully you took lots of away, and at the end of the day, you're going to embrace technology, the technology that's available in this convenience economy, and then have those higher expectations when it comes to what's available. So lots out there. Lots of education resources available for you, but take those first steps. I think it's so key to really reduce these stats that we don't want to see anymore. So with that, we'll bring this episode of the Auto Tech Show to a close. If you have any comments or questions, just drop us a line on LinkedIn. That's just below in the description. But until the next episode, we will wish you all a fantastic day wherever in the world you may be. We'll see you in the next show of the Auto Tech Show very soon. Bye for now.